So, good morning or good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. It is my sincere pleasure to welcome you to today's Volume 2 of our Supply Chain Bites webinar series. Today, we will specifically focus on Malaysia's potential as an alternative supply chain hub in Asia Pacific. And it is my greatest pleasure to welcome Mr. Siva from the Malaysian Investment Development Authority and Lucas Chu from UOB Malaysia on board as our expert speakers. They will both not only share their professional insight into Malaysia's substantial assets with you, but also highlight some practical considerations for your existing or future business ventures in the region. Though we probably all had our fair share of digital meetings in the meantime, let me quickly guide you through the technical side. In the top right corner of your screen, you will find the control panel. Here you may choose your audio settings and choose between your computer audio or a headset if available. Please note that as an attendee, you are muted by default. A little further down, you will find the question panel. Please use this panel to insert all your comments or questions that might come up during the session, and you may do so anytime you like because it won't cause any irritation or disruption. We will take down all your questions and be happy to attend to these in the end in our Q&A session. As to the schedule, we will start with Malaysia, your gateway to Asia, by Mr. Siva, Executive Director, Investment Promotion at MIDA. His presentation will then be followed by an outlook on regional banking solutions in ASEAN and beyond, provided by Lucas Chu, Executive Director and Country Head of Transaction Banking UOB. As always, we will round up our session with a Q&A for you to submit your individual questions. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be made available online for you and your colleagues later on to recap anytime you wish. So looking forward to an enlightening session. It is now my pleasure to leave the stage to Mr. Siva. Thank you.
Very good afternoon, those in Malaysia, and of course a very good morning to everyone in overseas here. So to Ms. Bettina, thank you so much, to Rödl and partner as well as UOB for inviting MIDA to participate in this webinar. Let me just go through the slides, my presentation. Just some quick facts regarding Malaysia. It is a small country. We are talking about a population of 32.6 million people. We are located in the very heart of Southeast Asia. But what is very unique about Malaysia is that we are a trading nation. As you can see, our total trade to GDP is 123%. Yeah. So the question is, how is it possible for a small country like Malaysia to become such a big trading nation? Yeah. Now I will take you through my slides to highlight our strength as well as what are the value proposition that MIDA offers to potential investors who want to do business in Malaysia. This particular slide is the latest slide that we got from the World Intellectual Property Organization, or WIPO. Now, they have indicated very clearly that Malaysia leads the world in high-tech net export. This is actually as a percentage of total trade. Yeah. So this showcase our ability as well as our capability as a trading nation, not only in terms of exports and import, but more importantly in terms of exporting high-tech products from Malaysia. Yeah. Just a few slides on our role and function. Yeah. Can I go to the next slide? Give me a few seconds. I think the slide is not moving. Yeah. Okay. Now, MIDA, or Malaysian Investment Development Authority, is the principal government agency responsible to attract investments into Malaysia. We have 20 overseas centers worldwide, and in Europe we have 6 centers, and we have 2 offices in Germany, one in Frankfurt as well as in Munich. Just for your information, I've spent 7 years of my life in Germany to attract investments from not only from Germany but also from Benelux. Yeah. So I have first-hand experience in attracting investments from Germany to Malaysia. Next slide. Now, these are the services that MIDA provides. This is at a bird's eye view. Yeah. First, we do promotion. We identify companies. Yeah. That means we target the companies. We talk to them. We provide all the necessary information for them to make a decision whether they want to visit Malaysia or not even to invest. Yeah. So that part of it we do. The second part is that MIDA is also an approving authority, and that means we provide the necessary approvals at the federal level. So MIDA provides the manufacturing license for manufacturing projects, tax incentives, expatriate posts for companies to actually to hold key position here in Malaysia, as well as import duty and exemptions. We also handle what we call a representative office. This is the simplest form of doing business in Malaysia for companies who doesn't want to set up an entity, but they want to have a presence here. Yeah, that is also handled by MIDA. And of course, eventually we want companies to also look at Malaysia as operational headquarters. Yeah, there are so many companies have set up their international procurement centers, distribution centers, as well as OHQ in Malaysia. So MIDA, besides doing the promotion, we are also involved in providing the necessary approval at the federal level. So that is very unique for an investment promotion agency. And another major role of MIDA is to assist the company, handhold them, to ensure that the projects that are approved by MIDA is implemented on time. Yeah, so we do have a dedicated unit in MIDA who helps companies to actually to implement their project. Over the years, our role has also been expanded. Today, we are not only doing promotion, approval, but we are also involved in business facilitation. So we want to handle your issues. We want to handle your talent needs. We want more local sourcing of parts and components undertaken by MNCs in Malaysia. We have one of the most matured engineering supporting industry in ASEAN. Yeah, meaning a manufacturing company doesn't have to do everything in-house. They can outsource a lot of their services. In terms of Industry 4.0 technologies adoption, technology collaboration with our research institutions. We also provide funding needs, yeah, for high impact investments into Malaysia. And of course, we also have a lot of services which are now online. Now, this is actually a slide to show you the various options that investors have when they want to do business in Malaysia. You can start from the simplest form of doing business by setting up what we call rep office or regional office in Malaysia. Of course, we welcome you to set up production facility, competence centers, R&D training center, as well as services activities such as principal hub and operational headquarters. The simplest form is, of course, a rep office. This does not require a company to set up a company in Malaysia. Yeah, it's more of like a one-man show where you can get the approval from MIDA. This is a cost center. It is not a profit center. You can't do any invoicing, but you can do feasibility study. You can look at the market. If at all you already got what you call sales, then that invoicing can be done through your parent company in Germany. Yeah. So the whole idea of this rep office is for you to have a feel of Malaysia for a period of maximum 2 years or up to 5 years. We will extend this status. And eventually, then you have to make a decision whether you want to set up a company in Malaysia, whether to do sales, whether to do production, or whether you want to set up a services center. Yeah. These are just some of the examples of rep office that we have approved. Yeah. I think some of them have already set up a company in Malaysia. Yeah. Now, let me just go through the promoted areas or the growth areas that MIDA or Malaysian government is what you call promoting currently. Yeah? What is important is that Malaysia is positioning itself very differently from any other countries in ASEAN, yeah, or in Southeast Asia. We are targeting quality investments. That means we are looking at high value added, skill intensive, high technology and R&D kind of design activities in Malaysia. Yeah, so it is no longer labor intensive, low end, low value added operation in Malaysia. And the sectors that we are currently promoting is electrical electronics, machinery and equipment, chemical industries, medical devices, as well as aerospace. Of course, other industries are welcome. Yeah, so we need to discuss with the potential investors who are coming to Malaysia. In terms of services, the one that we are promoting currently is green technology, companies setting up ICT services, principal hub, yeah, as well as maintenance, repair, and overhaul. Yeah, these will be some of the areas that we are focusing currently. Just some figures to show where we are currently in terms of attracting investments. This is approved investments in the economy. This is the whole economy we are talking about, yeah, manufacturing, primary, and services sector. As you can see, we approve about 50 billion USD worth of investments in a year. Last year, there was a drop. So we approved about 40.7 billion. However, the investments in the manufacturing sector actually increased, yeah, compared to the year 2019. As you can see from here, some of the largest foreign companies invested in Malaysia. Lam Research from US, Dexcom from US. We have UCT, Smith and Nephew from UK, yeah, and existing companies such as Bosch, B. Brown, yeah, as well as Eppendorf, they also expanded their operation. And as you can see from the manufacturing investment, majority of these investments are foreign direct investment. So we continue to attract very high level of FDI despite the crisis that we were facing last year. Yeah. Now, this is actually realized investments in the manufacturing sector as at December 2020. Okay. As you can see, Germany is actually our largest investor from EU. In fact, I would say in any given year, Germany has always been one of the top investor. Yeah. So I think we will continue to attract investments from Europe and particularly from Germany. Yeah. These are some of the prominent German companies already operating in Malaysia, as well as those in 2019 and 20. Yeah. And of course, all the prominent top foreign companies already have. We have more than 5,000 companies from more than 50 countries operating in Malaysia. And these are the regional global operations that we are focusing currently. Yeah? So you'll find that they also have a production facility in Malaysia, and they also have a distribution hub. Now, the latest investment that we approved is IKEA's. IKEA is one of the largest. This is actually their new plant that they have set up. This is the regional distribution center in Selangor, in one of the states. And this is actually Volkswagen's regional distribution center. I was very much involved in negotiating this project to be located in Malaysia. So here they are exporting their parts and components to almost 22 countries from Malaysia. Besides Volkswagen, we also have, of course, other German companies operating here. Yeah. Now, this is just an example of how a small, medium enterprise of a German company started their operation in Malaysia. This Mühlbauer, yeah, they produce chips and also what you call smart cards. Yeah. When I visited them in 2006, they decided to set up an operation in Malaysia, but they made it very clear they are not interested to set up a big production facility, just an assembly operation. But today, they have more than 280 staff, and most of these are engineers, and they are operating in Malaysia, yeah, and doing very well. They're doing R&D, they're doing production, assembly, and everything. B. Brown is a different type of project where they are one of the largest investors in Malaysia, yeah, and they're doing very well as well. Recently, they set up their a test center, and they have been in Malaysia for the last 50 years, yeah, and they've invested more than 4.4 billion ringgit Malaysia. That comes to about $1 billion US, yeah. Busly APAC is actually a company from Holland. Yeah? It's a machinery company. It's also a very successful company who's doing, and they're doing a lot of sourcing of parts and components in Malaysia. Almost 90% of their products are actually sourced locally. It's another big success story, yeah, where they have so not only sourced locally, but a lot of engineering supporting are done in Malaysia. So the next few slides are actually very quickly. I will take you through why Malaysia. Yeah, what is so unique about Malaysia that German companies, yeah, can look at making Malaysia as their supply chain hub. The first is economic fundamentals. The growth rate over the last 10 years, I would say, was about 4 to 5%, except last year it declined. And for next year, for this year, it is projected to be 6.5%. Yeah, so very strong economic fundamentals. Number two, we are located in the heart of Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is the fastest growing economic region in the world. Over the last 20 years, it was 5.3%. And for the next 5 years, it is projected to grow at about 4.9%. No investors would want to invest in Malaysia if the investment policies are business friendly. So we allow foreign equity ownership in the manufacturing sector and selected services sector 100%. We allow for repatriation of income. We allow for key position to be held by foreigners. Your IP is well protected, and we have also signed investment guarantee agreements, including with Germany. We have one of the most advanced ecosystem in all those sectors that I highlighted, whether it is machinery, whether it is chemical, whether it is medical devices, so on and so forth. Now, this ecosystem is important because without all these players in Malaysia, we would not be able to attract any company to set up the operation in Malaysia. Yeah. So you can do a lot of sourcing. We have talent. We have also buyers. And we also have engineering supporting companies who can provide all the necessary support for any foreign companies who want to set up the operation in Malaysia. Malaysia is currently already a high-tech hub, particularly for some of these industries that I mentioned. Electrical, electronic, for example. 6 out of the 12 largest semiconductor companies globally are operating from Malaysia. In the LED industries, we have 3 out of 9 companies operating in Malaysia as well. So our track record clearly shows that Malaysia is already a high-tech hub. And as I mentioned in the very first slide, the total exports of Malaysia indicates the type of high-tech activities are being undertaken here. And of course, our strong engineering supporting industries talks for itself. And our talent. When it comes to talent, I just want to highlight that we have close to 2,000 Malaysian students studying abroad in Germany alone, in UK, in Taiwan, in Korea. Now, those who are studying in Germany, what we have done is that MIDA has been working very closely with all these students, Malaysian students abroad, and we have attached them to foreign companies operating in Malaysia. So today, if you were to go to any of these companies operating in Malaysia, you'll find a lot of Malaysian students who studied in Germany who are currently working with German companies here. We also have very attractive investment incentive that we provide. I don't want to go through the details. Maybe during the Q&A session, I can highlight some of the incentives. But it is suffice for me to say, generally, a company who operates in Malaysia enjoys 20 to 25 years of tax break. The first 5 to 10 years is based on their promoted products. And then for the next 15 years, it is based on their capital investment, irrespective of the products that they are producing. So the reinvestment allowance is actually basically based on capital investment made by the company for the next 15 years. We also offer gateway, not only to ASEAN now, it's beyond ASEAN. We have signed 14 free trade agreements, and the market that we offer is 3.9 billion. So if you can see from this map, if an European company want to set up an operation in Malaysia and want to export to China, Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, you name it, we already signed FTA with them. So the tariff rate, if you were to produce an export to this market, is maybe 0 to 5%. And recently we signed, of course, RCEP. It is called Mega FTA. So you have 10 ASEAN members plus another 5 ASEAN partners. These are Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Korea, and China. So this is the market that we are offering for any foreign companies operating and setting up their production facility in Malaysia. And the latest, what you call a DHL Global Connectedness Index, have ranked Malaysia very favorably. They have ranked Malaysia as the second highest in Southeast Asia in terms of connectedness, as well as 16 out of 169 countries. And so Malaysia is the right place. If you're looking for a hub, to make Malaysia as a hub for you to export your products to this region. And these are some of our international standing, our ranking, because maybe it is easy for me as a MIDA officer to highlight the uniqueness of Malaysia. But what is more important is an independent analysis of Malaysia's capabilities, ease of doing business, in terms of protecting investors in Malaysia, cost of doing business, we are ranked number 4th by KPMG in terms of high-tech manufacturing exports, so and so forth. Just before I conclude, I would like to just highlight a major initiative undertaken by MIDA recently. What the government has done is that we are now allowing for business travelers to enter Malaysia amid pandemic, whereby you can be exempted from quarantine. So for short-term business travelers, I'm looking at those potential investors or companies already operating here, their members, their shareholders, chairman want to visit, or their customers who would like to visit, or technical people who want to come and install machinery. All of them are now allowed to enter Malaysia for a period of maximum 14 days, and they can be exempted from quarantine. This is a safe travel website that we have developed. Investors are actually encouraged to have a look at it, and then you can submit your application. So this is how the Business Traveller Center looks like at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport. So all short-term business travelers have to go through this. The COVID test is also undertaken there. The result is known within 3 hours. So all in all, within 4 hours, you're already out of Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and you can follow the itinerary. There will be a liaison officer appointed by the government to follow the business traveler throughout his itinerary in Malaysia. So they must undertake one COVID test before they arrive, one COVID test when they're at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport, and when they depart, they do another final COVID test. So this is how it looks like. So far, we had quite a number of German companies already using this one-stop center. And the feedback that we got from these companies are, as you can see from the screen, this is from SHOT. They were the first business traveler use this one-stop center that has been set up by the government of Malaysia. So we went live March last month, and we already had up to, I think, about 30 companies already using this facility. And I'm glad to say that we have facilitated investments close to 58 billion ringgit Malaysia, or about 15 billion US dollars. So this is by Infineon. Okay. So I think with that, I conclude my presentation. All right. So I'm free to take up any questions later on. Thank you very much, Ms. Bettina.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siva, for this most enlightening insight into Malaysia and its sustainable and impressive assets. So I will now gladly pass on to Mr. Lucas to show us some of the more practical sides of investing in Malaysia or doing business in Malaysia. So the stage is yours. Thank you very much.
Hi, good afternoon and good morning, depending on where you are. In Malaysia, we are now in afternoon, and I understand that it's morning in Germany. Hi, my name is Lucas Chew. I'm the Executive Director and Country Head of Transaction Banking for UOB Malaysia. Allow me to spend a couple of minutes just to introduce UOB, right? UOB is a banking group with a Singapore-based bank group, right? Our foothold, right, is actually in ASEAN and Greater China, right? And as you see from the screen, right, the screen has gone back to. Hi, sorry. Okay, as you can see from the screen, that this is where we are, and the foothold of where each country that we are in, right? What we want to do, right, in UOB is that we are very committed and very focused to our customers, and we wanted to provide a strong regional footprint to assist our customers. And with in each of the country that we are in, we wanted to be able to provide domestic capabilities, right? Full domestic capabilities to help our customers in terms of the banking need for them in each of the country. And our solution are very regionally aligned, right? So that when you see any solution that's being implemented in any country, it will be the same in the next country within the Southeast Asia that you go to, right? And we also provide client advisory on each what do you wanted to do and how, and you can actually go about in terms of banking in each of these countries that we are in. A little bit about Malaysia, UOB in Malaysia. We are in Malaysia since 1951, so this is the 70th anniversary, right? That we are 70th year that we are actually in Malaysia. We are the largest foreign bank in Malaysia and rated AAA by the rating agency in Malaysia, right? The key strength is that we are a full universal banking licensed bank in Malaysia, so we can do as any banking facilities or any banking services that can be offered by any banks in any other large bank in Malaysia. We can do the same, right? So this is some of the values that we carry, right? Is that we are honorable, that we wanted to be honorable in our dealings with our customers as well as our colleagues, right? We wanted to be building an enterprising spirit so that we can actually work together with our customers and with teamwork and as well as committed, right? When we look at the business world, right, what we can actually offer in UOB is an end-to-end services, right? So it can be all the way from the personal side of things to all the way to the corporate requirements, right? And some of the capabilities that we can actually offer, we can offer full suite of cash management capabilities, as well as a full suite of trade finance capabilities. I will go through this very quickly. And importantly, we can actually do well on the supply chain management. And I think this is one of the main topic that we have in today, right? On supply chain management, right, we can actually look at both sides, right, when pre and post of your financing, where we can actually look at the supplier financing as well as the dealer or accounts receivable financing, right? One of the things that I wanted to highlight in terms of the dealer financing, this is something that is unique because that in dealer financing is actually when an anchor, which is a large company, selling to dealers or distributors, which are smaller companies. So smaller companies, in this case, because the receivables is actually from smaller companies, dealer distributors paying to anchor. And so the program for this part is actually depending on the credit worthiness of the dealer or the distributors. So this is actually something that is unique, where is to do a program as such, the bank who actually provide or support this program has to be well versed or doing well with the SMEs in these areas. And there are not many banks who can actually do that, right? So that is something that you need to look out for when you actually do dealer financing, right? So it brings me to, rather than to talk about capabilities, I wanted to share a few case study of how the solutioning was actually done, right? As a sample of a case study. This is case study number one, is actually a large beverage manufacturer. We don't show the name here, but this is probably the most recognized brand in terms of beverage in the world, right? And they are in Malaysia, and they actually they actually have some of the challenges when they set up their operation in Malaysia, in terms of they needed the liquidity to expand for their expansion, right? They also need to look at the control and risk as well as day sales outstanding, right? And also liquidity within their ecosystem, between them and their sales ecosystems. So these are some of the challenges that they actually have. So what we did is that we have actually provided 120 million worth of ringgit, Malaysian ringgit worth of a program for their distributor program, and another 100 million for their supplier financing program, right? So a total of 220 million in this case, and we have managed to increase their day purchase, right? Their payment from 60 to 120 days, and their days of receivables from 41 days to 21 days, right? This is all done by setting up a program, and the receivable program is, like I mentioned, right? The distributors in this case are actually small companies. So dealing with small companies, you need to have a bank with knowledge of how to deal with small companies, knowing their credit, and how to actually set up a receiving and a payment structure so that this is actually in line to enable this company to be able to receive money and control the payments from these distributors, right? So the second case study I have is a company that actually deal in e-commerce. They are a e-commerce platform that allowing consumer to go online to buy from them, and they are currently the number one e-commerce platform in Malaysia, right? The company founded in 2017, and they in cases like this, they have very large because they deal with consumers, and they have very large base of buyers that go on to their platform and buy from them, right? And they will have also a very large base of suppliers who actually put their goods on the platform to sell to these consumers. So we are talking about a lot of transactions, right? Although some of them are very small in value, but the transactions accuracy, right? How do you capture the transactions in terms of payments, right? Is and the reconciliation and accuracy is very, very important in this case. So we have worked with this company, and we actually have provided them of a platform to enable them to actually do this, utilizing some of the platforms that's actually in the industry that is provided by the Central Bank of Malaysia, as well as some of these unique tracking capabilities that is actually provided by UOB Malaysia. Right? The third case study that I have is a construction company, right? A construction company, in this case, they have mega projects in Malaysia, right? Some of these infrastructure projects they help to build. And what they do is that when they are a construction company, they need to buy materials, right? Raw materials and materials like construction materials and building materials. And so what we do help them is to actually help them in controlling the pricing as well as the delivery timing, so that they can actually use the facilities from the bank to help them to actually do this in a secure manner, as well as a price control manner, because they can actually now buy earlier, or when they know that the price is right, and they can actually buy first and maybe stop for the usage at a later stage, right? So this is something also that we able to sit down with the customer, understand that what do they need in the industry, and use the banking facility in providing this kind of facility to enable them to maintain and control their supply chain in terms of the way that they manage their supply chain. And lastly, I wanted to share is a major oil company. The oil company, they actually have very large, they have a very large group of suppliers, right? Suppliers in this case are vendors. Vendors where they have major vendors, which are the big oil and gas players, right? And this major vendor will be able to be their main contractor, and then the main contractor will have subcontractor. So their program is actually go all the way to the subcontractor basis, so that we can actually provide a facility and also a solution that covers the entire ecosystem, right? So this is to help that because in the oil and gas industry, very much depending on the oil prices, right? Where how their contracts and actually given, right? So we can help to actually facilitating in controlling of this, so that even though the oil prices are fluctuating, right? But the work that needs to be done in some of this contract of building infrastructure or building some of these to facilitate the drilling and also the distribution of the oil and gas. This is also something that we can help in terms of looking, controlling managing the entire ecosystem for them, right? So on top of this, where I just talked about is mostly on the supply chain part, right? We also in the bank, we also provide a FX services, foreign exchange of currency services, as well as the investment banking services. Investment banking services in times that in some company that actually have big projects or have big requirements in the country, we can help them to actually issue commercial paper to the market where they can actually get funding and so on, right? So this is also part of the services available from the bank. And of course, we do have a department that's actually looking at foreign investments, where we will provide foreign investment advisory, right? Means when you come into the country, we can actually help you to look at how do you set up your banking facilities, how do you set up your banking account, what are the requirements that you need for you to set up the company, and as a bank, how can we actually help you to do that, right? So some of these are actually to showcase some of the past records of what we have done, and also to showcase some of the recognition that we have over the years, right? That is recognized by the various bodies as a credential of what we have actually done for company, for our customers, right? So lastly, just to talk about UOB a little bit, right, is actually our industrial specialization, that we have identified certain industry that we actually have the expertise, that we actually very good on, that we wanted to build on these industry sectors, and also the customized solution that we be able to sit down with our customers to come up with solutions that tailor to their needs, right? I lastly put up the contact point. This is myself, and this is my colleague in the FDI for the investment team, right? That you actually can contact us if you have any requirements. This will end my presentation, and I will pass back to Bettina.
Thank you very much for this very comprehensive but concise insight into your business. And we will now be happy to open our Q&A session for you to submit your personal questions to both of our presenters, who will be happy to attend to these. So I think we have one question over here that might be interesting to answer for both of you. What are the most attractive investment sectors in Malaysia right now, in your view? Maybe we may start with Mr. Siva, if you wish.
What is the question? What is the most attractive?
Attractive investment centers in Malaysia right now for the time being.
Oh, I see. Well, if you look at the investment figures of last year, I think most of the investments came into the electrical electronics. I think E&E, or we call it electrical electronics, is still the one of the most attractive, industries for investors to invest in Malaysia. All right. And of course, now, of course, the latest investment today, as we announced, was Microsoft's data center region, they call it, in Malaysia. So it is both, I would say, within the manufacturing sector, very high end. Within the services sector, we are talking about services activities. And at the same time, we also are focusing on what we call establishment of regional establishments, regional operations, so that they can make Malaysia as a hub for them to service their clients as well as their associate in the region, in the like of Singapore or in the like of Hong Kong. Yeah, so we are more focusing on those kind of activities as well, beside the traditional manufacturing. But even manufacturing, we're talking about high end, very high end. In fact, as we speak, we are now negotiating with a few projects in the what do you call semiconductor industries for the production of chips, high-end semiconductor components. I think because of the shortage of massive chips requirement, especially in the automotive industry. Yeah, so this would be, I would say, is the focus areas currently.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lucas, would you like to add anything to this?
Thank you. I think from the bank perspective, there are several sectors to us that we think that is actually very exciting. One of them is actually the ICT, right? The IT type of digital type of environment, where we see Malaysia is moving into a digital economy, where because of the pandemic as well as the lockdown, a lot of people are going online to do purchasing and also to do work on, right? So that is one area that we see a lot of new development that is actually happening, and we have actually worked with a few platforms to for enable our customers to actually do their business on, right? So that is one area that is quite interesting and exciting. Another area that we see is that we see is actually on the telecommunication area, that Malaysia has announced that we wanted to build our 5G infrastructure, and like that area that has attracted a lot of attention because 5G is a new technology coming into the country. So there's a lot of questions that a lot of people are asking now, how does that infrastructure being set up and so on. And the last one is actually we do see some thing that is actually happening that exciting is actually at the infrastructure building, the real road network kind of infrastructure, because the government is spending a lot of money in building, especially in the East Malaysia side. There are big projects of building infrastructure, roads and so on in that area, and those are actually in billions of dollars. Those are few areas that we see that is actually quite exciting, and quite interesting that is actually happening.
Thank you very much. I have another question to submit, which is which government initiatives are currently attracting FDI or do assist investors, for example, with regards to digitalization or any further incentives?
Very general question. Which can you repeat that question?
Yes, I will, of course, be happy to do so.
Yeah.
Could you just give a short overview of the currently active government initiatives in attracting FDI or assisting investors?
I see. All right. Okay, maybe I can highlight the major initiative undertaken by the government last year due to pandemic. What the government did was there was an initiative called Penjana. Penjana is a local terminology used to actually to revive the economy. Yeah? So a major initiative that was introduced was a special tax rate, zero tax rate, for a period of 10 years for new investments that are coming to Malaysia. So this would include any reinvestments. Let's say a German company operating, it can be anywhere, any part of the world, yeah, or American company, or even companies operating in China who want to relocate their investments into Malaysia. but the investment must be above, we are talking about more than 300 million Malaysian ringgit, more than, I think, maybe 60-70 million US dollars. Yeah. So then the government is willing to offer a tax rate of 0%, yeah, corporate tax rate of a period of 10 years. In fact, if the investment is more than 100 million US dollar, then we are willing to consider for a period of 15 years. Yeah. So this was actually a major incentive that we introduced to encourage new investments during pandemic. That's number one. But of course, these are capital intensive in nature. Another incentive scheme that we introduced was for medical devices and also for vaccine production. Yeah. So very much interested in companies setting up their vaccine production here in Malaysia, or pharmaceutical companies setting up their operation during pandemic as well. Yeah. So we are willing to consider some special incentive. But what is more important as far as MIDA is concerned is that we are willing to consider to provide customized tax incentives. This is very important. The incentive scheme by MIDA or by the government of Malaysia consists of two acts. One is what we call Promotion of Investment Act, which is standard, where you'll find all the incentives are spelled out. But there are some incentive schemes that we provide under another act called Income Tax Act 1967. Under that act, we are able to provide incentives over and above what is granted under the Promotion of Investment Act. So those incentives are considered as customized incentive packages, where we need to negotiate with investors, discuss with them, and based on the project's proposal, then we are willing to provide incentives over and above what is already stated under the Promotion of Investment Act.
Thank you very much. Once again, Lucas, would you like to add anything to this?
I think that most of these are covered by Mr. Siva, because it's the government on providing the incentives. Yeah.
So, thank you very much.
But if I may,
yes, of course,
if I may, actually, you see, generally, I don't think so. Incentive assumes an important role in attract any investments into Malaysia. Yeah? Based on my experience of spending 7 years in Germany. Yeah? So what is more important is this, they are looking at a long-term investment. Yeah? They are looking at a very stable country, and they want to make sure that they can make money. They must be able to make profit, even without tax incentives. So what I'm trying to say is that if you look at the UNCTAD report clearly says that Malaysia is one country among emerging economies whereby the return on investment is one of the highest in the world. Yeah. So given the economic development of Malaysia in terms of infrastructure, connectivity, banking facilities, like what mentioned by Mr. Lucas, and the education and the talent, and given everything, the question is it profitable to do business in Malaysia? The answer is yes. All right. And on top of that, the government is willing to provide some special incentive for a period of 5 to 10 years for you to reduce the cost of doing business, provided it is promoted activity. And for 15-year period, whichever company is operating in Malaysia in the manufacturing sector, irrespective what products you are producing, the government is willing to provide reinvestment allowance of 60% for every investment that they make. For modernization, upgrading, expansion, diversification, capital investment, you get 60%, and you can accumulate all these allowances, and you can carry forward the unutilized allowances up to 7 years after the 15-year period. Now, no other countries in the world provide reinvestment allowance like Malaysia. I know that for sure. And that is the reason why so many companies are still in Malaysia. They have not packed their bags and left to Vietnam or Indonesia. But even if they were to leave, it's because they are no longer able to produce, how shall I say, labor-intensive, low-end operation in Malaysia. Yeah, so we welcome them to actually to shift their labor-intensive operation, but to remain their high-end and high value-added activities in Malaysia. Yeah, so that is our approach. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it was quite to the point, so I'm sure that everybody took home the assets of Malaysia to take into consideration upon continuing existing businesses or starting new ventures.
Yes,
So with regard to the time, I'm really happy to say that we stick to our program, and we really provided a supply chain bite this time once more for our audience. Thank you very much, Mr. Siva. Thank you very much, Mr. Lucas, for sharing your professional insight and for giving us such a comprehensive overview of what to expect and what to hope for in Malaysia upon doing business. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. And as always, we will be happy to share the slides with you upon request. And we will also be sharing the link for the recording as soon as it will be available. Thank you very much, everybody. Stay safe and take care, and hope to see you soon again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.